The times where you fatigue, they're not the times you're working the hardest. The times you fatigue are when you're being least yourself. You're not being true to who you are and what you want. As long as the only promise that you're willing to make yourself is that you won't stop, ultimately you will get to the top of the mountain. To worry about where your limits are is to miss how much you can improve. Need motivation? Watch a Top 10 with Believe Nation.
Top 10, I got a top 10. Got my motivation high for my top 10. Gotta learn from the wise women and men. All my life, like 9 and 9. For my top 10, top 10, 9 and 9. This one's for my top 10.
Hey, it's Carmichael, and I make these videos because chances are you are the most ambitious person in your circle, but you know you're capable of more, and you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Tom Bilyeu, and my take on his top 10 rules for success. Enjoy. Okay, let's kick it off with rule number 1, hunger for that goal.
You have to fight to reach your dream. You have to sacrifice and work hard for it. That's coming from the man who has come to define natural talent. But that's what other people put on him. People want to see somebody who's just naturally talented. It's God-given. They were graced. They were blessed with something at birth. But what does he say when he's asked about what it took to become the person that he is? It took hard work. It took sacrifice. It took giving things up. It took doubling down. It took pushing himself every day, day after day. And that's the thing about hard work. When you put that kind of unending, blinding effort into something, it gets to the point where you've worked so hard that it looks like magic, that people would sooner believe that it's DNA, that it's gifted, that it is God-given, than to believe that they would have to work that hard to replicate it. But if you can stop making other people extraordinary as a way to let yourself off the hook, then you too can become extraordinary. All of us are capable of far more than we think. We're capable of more than the people who love us the most think. We are capable of more than the people who hate us the most would have us believe. At the end of the day, it is a very simple question you're going to have to ask yourself and answer for yourself. How hard are you willing to work? How much are you willing to sacrifice? But on the other side of that is power and energy. And as Kyle Rote Jr. said, if you're attacking, you don't get as tired as when you're chasing. And that's the key. When you know what you want and when you will not be held back from getting it, suddenly you go on the offensive. It's not about pleasing somebody else. It's not about chasing somebody else, becoming them, or even beating them. It is about yourself knowing what you want and attacking it, going after it, and not letting anybody dissuade you. It is looking at yourself and recognizing how you have to improve to get that good, but you've got to hunger for that goal. You've got to hunger to get across and win. You've got to want that the way that a man whose head is on fire wants a pond. And when you get to that stage, when you're able to cultivate something in yourself like that, something that is refusing to be extinguished, something that will be heard, something that will stand up and be counted, then you're going to have what you need to get the skills that you need to move forward, to win, to attack. And in that attack, and having the energy to move forward relentlessly, you will find that even though you're working harder than you've ever worked in your life, you're more energized than you've ever been in your life. The times where you fatigue, they're not the times you're working the hardest. The times you fatigue are when you're being least yourself. You're not being true to who you are and what you want. So right now, start being honest about what it is you're willing to attack. Start being honest about who you want to be, what you're willing to become, and the price you're willing to pay to get there. If you give yourself over to that, you will not be able to be stopped.
Rule number 2, acquire unique skills.
There's a difference between happiness and fulfillment. A bowl of ice cream brings me happiness. It does not bring me fulfillment. Fulfillment is often born of suffering. Fulfillment is about doing the things that are hard. In fact, the Greeks have a word for it. It's called techne. Techne means that you acquire a set of skills that is unique to you. The acquisition of those skills was very difficult, and here's the important part. Those skills serve other people. To me, I believe that the very reason that we're all here is to see how many skills we can acquire that have utility, and then put that utility to the test in service of others. That's going to be the thing that lights you on fire. That you're busting your ass. You're really getting good at something. You are taking action. You're moving forward. You're doing the things you need to learn to learn and trigger that adaptation response that humans have. You're putting yourself under the stress. You've identified a goal. You're working your way backwards to where you are today. And that's the key.
Rule number 3, be intentional.
Building yourself begins with intention, clarity. You have to know who you want to become. You can't just show up in the gym of the mind and do random stuff any more than you can show up in the gym of the body and do random stuff and think that you're going to end up on the stage competing for Mr. Olympia. It doesn't work like that. You've got to have this clarity of focus. And the way that I always explain it to people come to me all the time and they're like, Tom, I want to help people, man. And I'm like, that is rad. That's coming from such a beautiful place. But telling me that you want to help somebody is like saying you want to win a gold medal. In what? The Olympics? Yes, fantastic. Summer or winter? Summer, great. Tennis or swimming? Swimming? Which event? Backstroke? The medley? Because until you know exactly in what way you are trying to serve people, you don't know what skills you need to acquire in order to leave people in awe so that you may become extraordinary. Skills have utility. Learning how to swim better makes you a faster swimmer. Building certain muscles in your arms and in your shoulders, all of the different things that go into getting great at any sport, all of those things must be learned with calculation. They must be practiced and rehearsed over and over and over. You have to push yourself long past the point of boredom. Boredom kills more people in the pursuit of success than any hater will ever kill. Boredom is the great killer of dreams. Boredom. Because people don't have the focus, they don't have the clarity of what they're trying to achieve. They have not built into their life an intoxication for what they're trying to accomplish.
Rule number 4, avoid premature optimization.
First of all, each and every one of you needs to avoid what Kevin Kelly calls premature optimization. Then you need to go out and experience a whole lot of stuff. Now, premature optimization is where somebody thinks off the jump, oh, this thing, I'm kind of interested in that. I'm going to optimize my life for that thing. And the reason this happens is, God forbid, you went to a high school where they already made you choose like more or less a major, which they do in the UK, and I think is problematic. And some schools do here in the US. Then certainly by the time you get to college, everyone is forcing you, they want you to pick a major. Then when you get out, you've got to get a job, and you want to get a job that makes sense with the major that you just got because you took on all this debt and you spent all this time. And so that's premature optimization. You literally made a decision when you were 18, maybe 17, terrifying. And now the whole rest of your life is an echo of that random decision you made before your brain was finished developing. Think about that for a second. Your brain doesn't stop developing until you're 25. So at 18, and that's late, honestly, most people are thinking about it at 17 or even 16, you're making a decision, you're prematurely optimizing, you haven't experienced enough stuff, you don't know what really lights that initial spark of interest, and so you go down this path, you're at 25, you're having a quarter-life crisis because you don't love what you do, it's a mess. So, my advice is to go experience a whole lot of things. Now, whether that's taking a gap year, which I would never have done, so trust me when I say that's not your only option, but you need to be experiencing a lot of stuff, trying a lot of things, taking a lot of classes, watching videos, tutorials, reading, learning, like figuring out what it is that you go, whoa, I really like that thing. It's not a passion, it's not gonna spark off like that. It's just experience, you find something,
It piques your curiosity. You're more interested in that than the next thing. Okay, now we're going to engage with it. This is step 2. Engagement is different than just going and experiencing. So that's sort of a very non-committal, dilettante sort of way of involving yourself with something, just experiencing it. The next is, I really like this and I'm gonna go hard on it. So if I took a dance class, now I'm gonna sign up for a year's worth of dance classes or something. I'm gonna start going and I'm really gonna see if I like this. And in that engagement process where you're starting to read about it, you're talking to other people about it, you're gonna find out if the more you get into it, the more you're like, whoa, this went from an interest to like a real fascination. Fascination is that next gate. If it turns into a fascination and you're like, whoa, the more I learn about this, the more I want to learn, and the more that I get just excited about this, the more energy it gives me. Okay, that's a good chance then that thing can become a passion. Now we're gonna go through the process of actually gaining mastery. Now, I think passion is like love, meaning it needs to be a reciprocal thing. So as you go down the process of gaining mastery, those skills need to then be useful in the real world, and the echo that you get back from the real world, that those skills are valuable to other people, the more you're gonna be like, whoa, I feel good about myself. So now you had something that was interesting, it turned into a fascination the more you engaged with it, and now as you gain skills, you're actually able to serve other people who then give you that positive reinforcement where you're like, whoa, not only am I getting good at this, like that getting good has real world utility and it impacts other people. And then they echo that back and that makes me feel really good about myself. So I enjoy it in and of itself, and I enjoy that element of techne where as a social species, I am helping other parts of my tribe, and that feels really good. And it's something that other people value. That is the passion. Now, fanning the flames is a slightly different thing to the side of that, which is in that process, which I think it starts pretty early, probably starts back at the interest phase. As you get interested in something, you're going to start doing things like what I'm doing right now. 2 seconds before the camera started rolling, I was not talking like this. I did not have this energy level. I wasn't using my hands as much or my face as much, oddly enough. But embodying something is absolutely critical. So a big part of gaining a passion is telling other people what you're up to, allowing yourself to embody the excitement, telling yourself and other people that you're excited about it, and actually embodying that excitement, embodying that passion, which then your brain goes, whoa, we're getting really excited about this. You know, our volume is getting higher, we're getting more energetic, we're moving more. All of that stuff forces the brain to say, this must actually be really important. And when you start doing that, then you're beginning to hardwire your brain for that. And you're beginning to associate the emotion with that thing that you're doing. It is something that you can very much do as long as it's based on something real. I find that this is pretty ineffective if there isn't that real core level of interest. But if you have that real core level of interest, then all of a sudden everything that you do just magnifies that over and over and over.
All right, what is up, everybody? I want to talk to you about my good friend Evan Carmichael's book right here, Built to Serve. I'm actually going to read you a section. There are some amazing parts to this book, and this is one of my favorite. It's under the title, Comfort is the Enemy of Greatness. And it goes, when you're comfortable, you don't get strong. When you have plenty of fresh air and no adversity, you crumble as soon as something gets hard. It's rarely the kids of rich parents who go on to do great things, even though they have all the advantages that money, connections, and education can buy. Why is that? Because they're too comfortable. People who are comfortable don't create great things. There it is, Evan Carmichael, bringing the heat in his book, Built to Serve. Get a copy.
Rule number 5, don't stop.
As Elon Musk said, if something is important enough, you should try, even if the probable outcome is failure. And that's where most people stop. And this is the one that drives me crazy. And this is the thing about really trying to do something with your life. Yes, you might fail. Yes, you might embarrass yourself. You might end up doing a faceplant. You might end up wishing that you hadn't even started. But if it's important enough, even in that moment, you've got to get back up and ask yourself, honestly, where did I fail? What was the skill that I didn't have that was required of this task? And once you stop beating yourself up, once you stop turning inward with a judgment of I'm not good enough, and you start turning inward with the judgment of I don't have good enough skills yet, then you can do something, because you know it's only a matter of time, effort, and focus between who you are today and who you need to become to actually do that thing. So don't worry about whether or not you're gonna fail, because the only promise that I can make you is that you will fail. And as long as the only promise that you're willing to make yourself is that you won't stop, ultimately you will get to the top of the mountain.
Rule number 6, execute your why.
There's a gap between who you are today and who you will need to become in order to execute against your why. That thing in you that's burning, that you really care about enough to get across the finish line, that you care about enough to keep doing even when it's making your hands cramp closed, that you care about enough even when you've got to come in and work between rival gang members. It's the thing that you care about enough that you really will work so hard that the rival gang members fall in line behind you because you're leading by example. Thank you. And that became my mission every day. I'm going to show up and outwork everybody. I'm going to be the first one here. I'm going to be the last one to leave. And most importantly, guys, I really hope you were listening to Robert Cialdini, whose books I have read and all but memorized. The key is you want to connect with them. You want them to fall in love with you. You want them to be inspired. You want them to feel better about themselves when they're around you than when they're not. And if you can pull that off, they will go to war for you.
Rule number 7, build yourself.
Think about it. If somebody is going to come after you and they want to hurt your feelings, there's one thing every time they will reach for. That is something that is true. When people try to hurt you, they go for the most real thing and they jab you right in your heart because they know it's going to hurt because it's real, man. And that's mean for sure, and it hurts for sure. But if you think of it like this, when somebody's throwing a rock at you with the intention of hurting you, you can put your defenses up, you will deflect that rock, never to be seen again, or you can lower your defenses, let it hit you in the face, knowing that it will hurt, but also knowing now at your feet is not a rock, it's a lump of gold. Because they've given you an insight into where you are weak. Now, once you know where you are weak, you can begin to build yourself. And that is my thesis on life. You get to build yourself in any direction you want, in any way, to become anything you want. There will be an extraordinary price to pay, but you can go in any direction.
Rule number 8, scrutinize bright lines.
I don't go, oh, that's interesting, bright line. I go, okay, that's interesting. I want to explore that more. What would that look like? How would that serve me? What would it really feel like for me? How's it playing out in my life? Does it actually have real world implications? And this isn't all something that I sit down in one quick session. Like, that's what I'm thinking about. I may think about it for weeks, a month, more, 6 months, who knows? And it depends on what kind of impact that it's gonna have in my life. So you don't lead with bright lines to create a habit. Let's be really clear about that. So habits are something different. Getting in routines and habits is a place to start. And then if you find, like, I have a morning routine, I have habits that I do every morning, but they are things that I'm very flexible on, that creates a lot of mobility in my life. If I wake up late or something like that, then I'll just shave this out or the other. Bright lines, like if I have a bright line, I don't f with my bright lines. I do my bright lines. So that's the whole point of a bright line. They are absolutely non-negotiable. So be very careful about what you put bright lines around. Make sure it is something that's leading you towards your goal. And I think better to make it a habit and a routine first and see if it actually has an advantage, if it's something that's important and if it's something that you struggle with, and think that it's really, really important and you need that bright line.
Rule number 9, put in the work.
And in the beginning, when all we could do, because we didn't know production, we just had to throw human capital at it. And I needed people there, not kidding, at 2 a.m. on a Friday night. I had a bunch of ex-convicts in their early 20s with the tattoos on the face, the teardrop and all that, grinding it out to make protein bars because I gave them hope, because I showed them that it doesn't matter who they are today, it only matters who they're trying to become and the price that they're willing to pay to get there. And so when you guys walk out of here, that's what you've got to ask. This whole theme of pivoting, this whole theme of keeping your center, is about knowing what you want and believing you can make it a reality. But the only way to make it a reality is to put in the work. You've got to put in the work. The change is hard. The change is difficult. The change will demand everything of you. But man, if inside you really believe in what you're doing, you really see how you can get to that goal that you want, if you really see how you can serve other people doing what you do with this skill set that you've worked your ass off to acquire, then you can actually make change in people's lives. And that's what motivates me. Getting the skills has real world implications. It took me from scrounging in my couch cushions to find enough change to put gas in my car to building a $1 billion business. It is absolutely limitless what you can accomplish. Now think about that. If that's really true, if what I just said is true, that human potential is limitless, then how you spend your time becomes a spiritual consideration.
And rule number 10, the last one before a very special bonus clip, is change your beliefs.
Now, I don't think that we're born blank slates, but we are so close to that. To worry about where your limits are is to miss how much you can improve. So focus on how much you can improve. There's an amazing quote by Alexander Solzhenitsyn, the author of the Gulag Archipelago. And what he said was, the line between good and evil runs through every human heart. To me, it's not about good and evil. To me, it's about malleability. That's a statement of how shapeable we are. Now, here's the terrifying thing about how we get shaped. It happens when you're young. You get all these things that come to you that seem to be simply true. I believed that the human mind couldn't change. I believed that it was fixed. I believed that my talent and intelligence were just what they were. It all seemed true. It wasn't like I knew it to be a lie. It wasn't even like I knew that I had a choice to think of it a different way. And one of my favorite quotes of all time is from Albert Einstein. And he said, the most important decision any human being has to make is whether they live in a friendly or a hostile universe. Decision. The most important decision anyone has to make. Because neither of those two states is empirically true, but either will immediately appear true once you decide to believe it. So once you decide to believe, the world is working for me, this is happening for me, it's not happening to me, I know this room has heard that statement. Once you believe that, you start looking for the ways in which that was powerful. How is the worst thing that ever happened to me actually secretly the best thing that's ever happened to me? And so suddenly I started saying, how is this shame of sitting in bed, how is this the best thing that's ever happened to me? How is this soliary type awareness of just how dumb I really am, how is that powerful? And the thing that winds me up when I say that, when I talk about I started from not being that bright, nobody thought I was gonna win, my own mother thought I was gonna fail, my father-in-law did not want me to marry his daughter, they think that I'm just being humble or that even I misidentified myself. But the reality is that's how shapeable a human being is. And I had made decisions, I had chosen to believe things, I had chosen to value myself for things, I had built my self-esteem around things that were not moving me forward. And so I began to change my belief system. I began to change the things that I value. And think about values. Think about how much they shape your life. Depending on where you grow up, you could become one of the members of the tribe on North Sentinel Island who killed that missionary who rolled up on their beaches. They just started hitting that fool with spears and arrows and just killed him. You could be that. You could be a warrior of Sparta. You could be a Nazi guard. Depending on the time and the place you grow up in, you could be a Manhattan socialite. You could be a party girl. You could be one of any countless identities that we see in the world. Not because you were born to be that thing. If we were born to be something, then we would still see some percentage of Spartan warriors being born today. We would see North Sentinelese born in Omaha, Nebraska. But we don't, because each of these places carries with it a value system.
a belief system, things that are unique to that group that you grow up in, what your parents tell you about your family, about you, what it means to be you, what you learn in schools, what you see in the media, all of that stuff is shaping how you view yourself and how you view the world. But it's happening insidiously because it is so invisible. People don't realize that they are choices. Now, once you reframe all of this as these are things that I'm choosing to believe, and once you realize that you can choose to believe something new and thusly get a different result, everything changes.
Now I've got a special bonus clip that I think you're gonna enjoy, but before that, it's time for the question of the day. I wanna know, what was your single biggest takeaway from this video, and what is your plan of action for the next week? The science says that when you just watch a video, you get motivated, you get inspired, you have a 35% chance of actually doing something and following through. That, Believe Nation, is not enough. 35% is not enough. We gotta do something. But when you get inspired by watching a video like this, and then you create a plan of action, your chances of following through jump to 91%. And when you commit publicly, like putting your comment down below with your plan, it jumps to 95%. That's what I want for you. I want you to take action. Your dreams are too important. Your life matters. Your mission has to happen. So, question of the day, your biggest takeaway from this video and your plan of action for the next week, put it down in the comments below, and I'm gonna celebrate alongside with you.
Listen and listen well, because no truer words are ever going to be spoken. You can do anything you want without limitation. Whatever it is that you decide you want to make come true in your life, you can do that. It is going to take an inhuman amount of work. You're going to have to be prepared to break yourself in half. You are going to have to learn more than anyone has ever learned. You're going to have to push yourself harder than anyone has ever asked you to push yourself before. You're going to go way beyond your breaking point. You're going to run until you vomit. You're going to study until you fall asleep. You're going to push and push and push, and then you're going to push some more. And when you hit the limit, you're going to push again beyond that. You're going to force yourself into an adaptation response. And why? Because as Malcolm X said, the future belongs to those who prepare for it today. So if you don't put the work in today, if you don't do the unending, back-breaking work of developing yourself into something greater, the world is going to pass you by. The people that are going to own it are going to be the ones that did that work. And the one promise that I can make you right now is that somebody out there is outworking you. Somebody right now is doing the things that I'm saying. Somebody right now is doing the work of failing and getting up and getting better and pushing themselves and triggering that glorious adaptation response that makes humans the apex predator. Someone right now, they're putting in that work. And if you don't, the future is going to belong to them. And as Martin Luther King Jr. said, if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. It's not okay to make excuses. It's not going to slow people down. It's not okay to ask the world to stop so that you can step out front. It's not okay to expect little of yourself and demand great rewards. The only thing that's okay is to be in line with the way that the world really works. And if you want to be great, you've got to become capable of greatness. You've got to develop your skill set. You've got to take what you have now, and if that's crawling, then crawl, but you drag yourself ever forward to a vision of yourself that is so clear and so specific that nothing could knock you off your path, because you, my friend, know exactly where you're going. You're willing to pay whatever price it takes to get there, and no matter what anybody says, no matter how many hecklers come for you, no matter how many people try to throw dirt on you, try to stop you, try to knock you down, no matter how many people come for you at night while you sleep, you will rise and you will keep pushing forward, and you will get better every day. And no matter how many times people chop at you, knock you down, knock you off the path, you will get back on. You will crawl till you can walk, you will walk till you run, and then you will run until you fly. And that, my friends, is the only path forward. So if you want a future that makes you happy, if you want a world that you're excited about, get your ass out there and earn it.
If you want 10 more amazing rules from Tom Bilyeu, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
The game that you're playing is not success. The game that you're playing is not money. The game that you're playing is brain chemistry.